And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, my name's Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Temporal Odyssey, the drafting battle card game. This is a two-player, okay, 2 to 4, whatever, but it's essentially a two-player card game. 4 players, essentially team versus team. A two-player card game in which you're going to take a character and recruit people from the past, the present, and the future to help you fight. So it's kind of just one of those two-player games where you're attacking each other with different creatures, Magic the Gathering style. But you're not building a deck here. You have a hand of cards, and you're building a hand to fight the other person and trying to use your characters and combine them in groups to do the best against your opponent. Here's a little bit about how it plays. In this game, you're going to be building 3 decks, past, future, and present. And you're going to use 3 different groups. So you can see here, this group here is mechs. So you have characters mechs, we got engineers and soldiers, paladins, warriors, assassins, beasts, etc. And so you can kind of go through here. They have these, I guess you can put dividers in the box to see what each of them has and kind of the symbols that you'll see on each of the different groups. So you have 3 groups and shuffle those and put them here. Then each person's going to pick a traveler here, which is going to be, the traveler is 2-sided, so you start with this side here. So Zowie the Abandoned. You're going to have a tower next to that person. They come with their own tower, so she comes with the Opal Tower. And then you'll take a handful of cards that have characters and spells and artifacts that your character is going to be able to play over the course of the game. Now, every time you reduce your opponent's character down to 0 hit points, they start with 50. If you get them down to 0, you'll flip the card, and this will give them an instability. There are instability cards here that are usually pretty cool things that you'll get that they cost no action points to use them, and they'll do something really cool for you. Once you get the instability, you'll flip them back over. If you have 3 instabilities and this card is caused to be flipped over, then you lose the game. So essentially, when you have 3 instabilities and your main character is defeated, you lose. There are other ways to get instabilities rather than just attacking the other person's character. But that is how the game's going to work. You're going to take turns back and forth. At the beginning of your turn, if any of your characters have tokens on them, you'll pull them back, and then you will gain 4 action points that you'll be able to use. This is kind of the same thing as an action point. You just put in a character to show that that character has attacked. So you're going to be able to use these. One of the things that you can do is you can play a card. So if I have, for example, this Mercury, the character mercenary here, she costs 2 action to put her in play. She has 2 things, a 30 attack and 50 hit points. This character here also costs 2. They're 20 attack, 30 hit points, but they're armored. And when they're enlisted, when you put them in play, you'll gain the top card of any time period. So the different characters have different things. This artifact just is cost 2, and it just gives you this symbol. You can also play spells, which will do various things, like this deals 30 target damage. This enlists a top character from the past deck that's stunned. This does 10 damage to a target character and stuns that character. And you can see these cost 1, 2, and 3. When you play a spell, you'll just put them underneath your character, and you're going to have to take a turn to get them all back in your hand to be able to use them again. If you have different symbols in play on cards, you can make these characters go up to a level 2 or level 3. So, for example, if I had played this Light Charm, it gives me this symbol. When I play Intensity, I can play it as a level 2. It will do an extra 10 damage. It will do 20 damage to a target character and stun it. If I have 2 yellow symbols in play, then it's a level 3, where this card costs 1 fewer action point. So it would be free to play, and it would do 20 damage to a target character and stun it. So here, this does 30 target damage, or it defeats each character in a target group. So grouping, you'll notice that some cards have arrows on them. That means they can be grouped with other cards to add armor or put them in front. The card in front is the only one that can attack, but you can add special abilities and kind of make a group that works together. Now you'll notice that you also have other things you can do, like for example, she can rest for 1 action point to get all her spells back. You can also attack with a character, and they'll simply deal their attack damage to somebody else. That person may have a shield, they might ignore some damage. But if so, you'll just put some of the damage tokens on that character. When a character has a lot of damage tokens on, they're defeated. If your main character is defeated, then of course you flip them over, get an instability. Other things like your tower might deal, you can pay an action point to deal 10 damage to somebody else. After you're done spending all your action points, you will pick one deck here, and you will draw 3 cards from the top of that deck. You're going to look at these 3 cards. So they're different. Here's some characters and some artifacts. This artifact here gives me 2 of these green symbols. Actually, you see I'm going to get green symbols from a lot of these here. I'm going to put one of the cards in my hand. I'm going to get rid of one of the cards, and then I'm going to put the other one face down back on top of the deck. So I'm basically saying to my opponent, hey, if you really want this card, you can get it. Many of the cards, again, when they're enlisted, this heals 20 battle damage. This one's armored 10, so she reduces the battle damage taken by 10. This guy here, when you enlist him, he does 30 damage to a target damaged character. And in a battle, double the attack of this card against damaged characters. So he does 20, but 40 if someone else is damaged. And as you look through each of these decks, you're going to notice all kinds of things. You will see that many of the cards are going to give the different symbols that you need for your spells. Many times when they're enlisted, they'll do various things. They have different attacks and hit points. Sometimes there's more spells that you'll be able to cast. And so there's various things that you will be able to get and slowly build up your hand so that you can play cards on your turn. Then it's the other person's turn, and you go again. And you're just going to keep going back and forth till one player is defeated. The game comes with several characters. It's very easy to tell the cards for a character because they have their symbol on the back of them. They have, the artwork is pretty good. I'm really not sure what the world is. It's it looks anime style and things as you go through it. I really like the artwork on the cards. I like that they included dividers because keeping these cards separate into different groups, you're going to be shuffling 3 different decks together, but that's not a big deal because you'll be able to easily separate them at the end of the game. And the symbols are clear. They're different colors and different shapes. And I found that for the most part it's good. I'm not a huge fan that the rules, does anyone like rules that unfold in one big page like this? I've never understood why companies do this. It's a real pain. And there's an FAQ here in this rule book, but I would imagine you'll ask more rules questions as the game goes by. Not a big fan at all of these tokens. I don't really like that there are tokens that show 10 damage on one side and 30 on the other, and sometimes they show the same on both sides, and they're also really small. I'd almost rather them just all be 10 damage tokens so that at a glance you can see how much damage someone has. And I would probably replace these with other tokens. It's not bad components, but I don't know that they're super stellar either. The card quality is okay. It's not fantastic, but it's good enough. And the artwork is nice. Like I said, it's anime, and it's in its own universe. I just don't know what that universe is. So here's the thing about Temporal Odyssey. It's not that complicated of a game to learn how to play. And yet I will imagine for your first several games, you will be looking stuff up all the time. Because there's so many abilities and things and this, and when does the timing of this go off, and how does this work with this, and is this possible to stop this? It's an FAQ heaven with all these things going on. And that actually subtracts a couple points from me because I really like the concept of the game. It's really interesting to be recruiting people in your hand and playing them, and I love how the different things make your spells more powerful, and you play your spells, and then you want to pick them up so that you can play them again. But I just wish that there wasn't so, it feels like there's almost too much for how simple the game could be. I also, yes, I can feel a difference between the different factions, like the assassins and the mechs. There's definitely a difference to how they work. Assassins do damage, especially if you're, wounded. They do things like that, and the mechs do this. But the cards themselves don't kind of stand out. They all look the same. In a sense. Yeah, the art's different on them, but I don't get a difference between 2 cards. So let me show you, for example. Here we have a lost character, and here we have an elemental character, and I'm just not seeing, at a glance, I can't really tell the difference between the 2 of them. I just wish there was a little bit more between that. theming wise. Also, the past, present, future thing doesn't really mean anything time wise. They're just 3 different decks to pull characters from, and you look and say, I need more of those symbols. That deck has them in it. I'll pull from that deck. Now, again, I don't mind that too much. It's just that I kind of wish there was a little bit more differentiation, especially thematic wise. But Temporal Odyssey is a fascinating game. I like how fast it plays, and you'll find pretty quickly some of these cards feel overpowered. Not too bad, though, because both sides will get overpowered cards. They're just really overpowered cards. The anomalies, or what do they call them? The instabilities, those cards are definitely a catch-up mechanism. You get one of those, oh, you're going to start losing, but now I can do something really awesome. One lets you bring out another character, you know. They let you do sometimes big damage or what have you. So it's an interesting game, and there's actually a lot of game here in the box. So here's the deal. This is from Level 99 Games. Their games tend to all feel very similar. BattleCon and things like that. Now, this one feels a little different than the rest. I don't know that it's different enough for me to care about it. This theme, this Temporal Odyssey, doesn't really draft me. It feels like a generic anime theme. Maybe it's based on something, I don't know. But it doesn't feel interesting enough for me to get involved theme-wise. So I'm kind of just playing the game. It's another 2-player mage versus mage game. That's what it feels like. And it's more put out characters. Now, putting the characters in groups is interesting. Drafting cards and there's a lot of interesting things in it. But because of the rules and having to look up how does this card affect this card a lot, and just the general, it's interesting, but not much more excitement about it. This is the kind of game that if you ask me to play, I'd be like, yeah, why not? But I don't know that I would go out of my way to play it when there's so many other games, some from the same company, that I think I would rather play more. So interesting, and I'm just not sure it's enough to stand out in this very crowded 1 versus 1 mage versus mage field. Dice Tower Judgment, intriguing concepts, interesting 2-player game.